Well, a day after laying the smackest downeth on the Los Angeles Lakers, the Phoenix Suns got slizzapped into fizz ace for Shizzer. They got punched in the face. Is what I'm trying to say, Matthew. Welcome to the Suns Jam Session podcast. Welcome, Matthew. It looks like you're hanging out in the closet this evening.
No, I'm actually across town. You travel for work and so do I. So I'm actually in a different state. I will not disclose that information, but I am
Good.
not in Phoenix. So, yeah, bad loss tonight. But honestly, we kind of expected a loss tonight if it did happen, but not like that. It was kind of disappointing, the effort, but they would just look super tired from the beginning.
Yeah, it was just one of those games where second of a back to back, you don't necessarily know if fatigue had anything to do with it. You like to
Yeah.
not think that fatigue has something to do with it, considering it's the third game of the season. But then you take into account it's 3 games and 4 nights to start your season. We know that the next game for the Phoenix Suns isn't until next Wednesday at home against the Sacramento Kings. So, you have to take this loss with a grain of salt. And I think that that's the way that I kind of I approached it. So,
Yeah.
something is wrong with the mic, Darth. Something's not sounding good on my end.
You're a little echoey, but I kind of like it. It kind of turned me on a little bit, but
What about now? How's it sound now? Am I
no,
sounding better?
it's still echoey a little bit. So you got the camera fixed. We're almost there. We got the camera fixed.
What the hell is going on this season?
I don't know. I love it though. The mishaps. This is what makes us special.
Hi, Chihuahua. Just one of them days, man. It's just one
I'm
of
in
them
an
days.
undisclosed location. Hey, at least we're doing the pod though, right?
Yeah, I
Get
guess
these things
so.
off.
But let me see here. Matthew, I'll let you talk a little bit while I do this. You can start the show or whatever. Just give me a second. I'll try to figure it out as I go.
Yeah, so tonight, I mean, the best thing about this game, honestly, is when you go into next game, when they get to play the Sacramento Kings. It's a team that you want to bounce back against. I honestly think what is so special about this season, even though we just went through a back-to-back, is everything's just so spread out. We actually have some time in between games to readjust, rest, come back, play better. That's what you're going to see a lot this season. Honestly, don't think tonight there's too much to take away because, look, their faces said it all. You can tell on Booker's face when he's tired, and he doesn't show it. There's one guy on the team that shows it a lot, and that's Deandre Ayton. Booker was shown he was tired. So once I saw that in the second quarter, I'm like, this is not going to be good. Anytime that they actually had a chance to come back, never happened. Just because on the other side, you got Portland. You have these teams coming out to try to defeat the Suns in a time where, they're defending Western Conference champions and they're going to put it all out there. So we are doing our best tonight to get this pod together. It's been quite the shit show the last 3, but let's get this started. John, you coming back on? Oh, there you are.
And can you hear me okay?
There you go. You sound beautiful now, man.
Okay. I don't know what the heck is going on. It's one of
all
those
right.
days.
It's been a crazy day, man.
And you know better than anyone, I'm extremely grumpy right now.
Oh, yeah. Shannon was texting me all the way back.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, my wife doesn't believe in Uber. So I was her Uber tonight. I had to drive all over Phoenix today, which fucking sucks.
That is the worst.
The Snowbirds are back. I can verify that.
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers lose. They're done. Notre Dame wins. But, and then you have this loss by the Phoenix Suns. And again, as we mentioned, you take a look at it, it's 135 to 105. The Phoenix Suns, and I don't even think that's correct. I think I even put in the wrong numbers. 134 to 105.
Yeah, or 134, yeah.
Yeah, so the Phoenix Suns lose by a total of 29 points at Portland. And, I got to ask you, Matthew. In fact, I got to ask you. You know what? I have a drop for I've got to ask you.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, do you think that this loss is more due to fatigue or lack of focus?
No, it's fatigue. And the one thing, before this game, even watching the solar panel this morning, it's like Dave was guessing, if we lose this game, we'll win the next one. It's not a big deal because these back-to-backs are they're kind of seldom in a way to where it's so spread out. I was just saying before when you got cut off, but all these games are so spread out. So when you have the back-to-backs, they might hurt a little bit more just because, last season it was so condensed. So when you're playing the back-to-backs, it felt normal. Now I feel like this season it might be a little different, right? With the back-to-backs, these teams might be a little bit more fatigued. And I brought up the way Booker looked. Booker was out of it from the beginning. The game they had against the Lakers, all of that, all the fighting, all the punches they took from the fans during that game, right to the jaw, that came into effect tonight, right? That came into effect of when this team was just so tired. And it was just a no-go. From the second quarter, you just knew they didn't have it in them.
It's unfortunate, though, because, this is a team that we should beat. We mentioned the reasons why on the podcast last night, that defensively this team doesn't really play well. And they showed that tonight. It wasn't necessarily that they were beating the Suns. I feel like the Suns essentially were beating themselves. They end the game shooting 32.1% from three-point land. And what's interesting is through the first the first two games, they were shooting 34% from deep. And that's good for, I think it was 21st in the league. So that's going to drop some more. So, we're not hitting the three ball. We end up shooting 48% on the night, but that's because the fourth quarter, the team finally kind of started to put a little bit together, and a little bit in the second half. They put it together, but that first half, it was abysmal. Shout out to code JJM in the chat, one of our loyal jamsters. For the $20, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
So the
thank
Cam
you.
Johnson Jersey Fund says we are not overreacting. Every game counts. We missed the playoffs 2 seasons ago by 1 game. We missed the 1 seed last season by 1 game. Soft.
Yeah.
And I do echo that sentiment. I definitely do.
Okay.
When games are there to win, you have to seize them. And you take a look at Portland. They're a team that obviously is trying to develop something new this season, trying to create a new identity with Chauncey Billups as the head coach, with some of the extra pieces that they've added. And they're a team that, they're doing everything they can to have Dame Lillard be happy, if you will. So you take that and you couple that with the fact that I'll look at it like this, Matthew. This is a target game. The Suns have a target on their back. We talked about it after the Denver game.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it all season long. You're not going to get shitty performances from the opposition because they know who the Phoenix Suns are now. And I feel like that is the why. It's not necessarily fatigue, as I mentioned. This is the beginning of the season. Tim Kempton was talking about on the radio. I know because I was driving around a lot tonight listening to John Bloom and Tim Kempton call the game. And that's one thing that Timmy said. He's like, you know what? This shouldn't be a fatigue game. It's the 3rd game of the season, man. I know it's 3 games and 4 nights in this travel, but you just had all this time off beforehand. Mm-hmm. So, I agree with Code JJM. Like, it sucks because a game in October is just as important as a game in March and April. And that's why it's frustrating to lose this game in the manner that we did.
Yeah, that's true. There's so many things going into this, though, where looking back at this in a couple of weeks when the Suns are on a roll, we'll be like, they were tired. And you can even say, they had a lot of time off, but it's still getting the legs underneath them. So they have to be used to these back-to-back situations. I just think that's a big factor. And when you play a full game like that against the Lakers, where you have to get a win, you don't want to go 0-2, you want to start the game, you want to start the season out at least 1-1. That's what they pulled off. So that was great to do that. Then you come into this game, it's like, how are you going to respond? They found out how they're going to respond. I don't think it's really... I can take a lot of negatives out of it, but I'm honestly, it's one of those games where it was frustrating because it was a blowout, but it was just kind of like accepting it. If the leader of your team, Booker, is just not looking as good as he should, and he really hasn't started the season out too well, but just his energy was there usually in the first 2 games. This game, it just wasn't there. No one else is clicking. I mean, especially Ayton. There was just nothing really there flowing for the Suns offensively. If they got anything going, it would be cut just like that. Nothing continued at all. No continued success at all this whole game.
Well, what's unfortunate is the fact that Devin Booker looked good to start the game. He came out, I think he hit 5 of his first 6 or 5 of his first 7. And you're like, okay, here we go. Devin Booker's going to roll. He had 9 points, I think, in the first quarter. He ends with the 29. He ends with 9 from 19. And my primary observation on this game, it was simple. The Suns just, none of the shots were going down, man. They had some really good looks at the important points of the game. Because as the second half, went down, the team played better. And by 10 minutes left in the game, all the scrubs were in because it was that far. I mean, they kept fighting, but the Portland Trailblazers wouldn't miss. I mean, you think about this game. We lose by a total of 29 points, right? And for the most part, the statistics are even, except for one main statistic, and that was 3-point shooting. The Portland Trailblazers hit 21 of 50. 21 of 50. They shot 50 fucking threes tonight. 42%. The Suns were 9 of 28. So if you do the math on that, that's a plus 36 for the Portland Trailblazers from downtown. They win by 29. The 3-point ball is what it truly came down to. Because I didn't see a ton of horrible things for the Suns outside of a lot of just missed mid-range and shots around the basket in the first half that allowed the Portland Trailblazers to extend that lead going into halftime. They were up by 20 by halftime.
Yeah.
And even though the Suns came out in the third quarter and scored 34 points, the Portland Trailblazers scored 39. I mean, they couldn't miss tonight, especially from deep. If you go up and down the box score and you look at their 3-point shooting numbers, McCollum 6 for 11, 2 for 4 from Covington, 2 for 4 from Powell, and I hope he's okay. I think he had a knee injury; he didn't come back in the second half. 2 for 7 from Dame, 2 for 2 from Larry Nance, 1 for 4 from Nasir Little, 4 for 8 from Anthony Simons. I mean, the whole team they're all shooting like over 50% from deep.
Yeah, that's how they kill you. And when we did the preview, the little knowledge we have about this team already, it's like no defense. They're going to outshoot you if they can, and that's what they did. And the way the Suns, they can get what they want offensively, but it's like tired legs are not going to help the ball go in. So it was mostly that. And yeah, Booker did start the game good, but it just got to a point to where, was that a beer snap?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to do one because of my audio,
right,
my
can
videos.
Can I get mine?
Go for it.
Let me just put there you go. That was a nice one.
That was a nice. Just kidding.
Yeah. I don't know. This game, it's one of those where, even like when you get Elfrid Payton in there too, working in there, which is kind of cool. I mean, I already saw some comments that he did a good job tonight, right? And what's nice is you wanted to see him tonight because of the back-to-back. Not getting minutes of the game before, you want to see him come in and expend those minutes away from Chris Paul and Cameron Payne. And he did. He came in and he did his job. And we now see like the 3-headed kind of monster we have with the point guards.
Well, and that was going to be my original Matthew I've got to ask question is, hey, Cameron Payne didn't play in this game. Enter the Elfrid. How excited are you that Elfrid Payton got to play? He got the second team nod, if you will, with Cameron Payne being out. He scores 14 points on 6 for 11 shooting, has 6 assists, looks very efficient what he does. No long range shots. I think he shot 1 3, but I mean, you just see his affinity to attack the paint. And it's something that I really liked with the second team unit where they had Elfrid Payton, Landry Shamet, Abdul Nader, Cam Johnson, and JaVale McGee, is they were attacking the paint early. And unfortunately, you can attack the paint all you want. If you're missing those shots and the Trailblazers are going down on the other end and they're hitting the threes, I mean, it's just game over.
It is. And the Elfrid Payton thing, everyone was really skeptical. I have my Invisalign in, so I can't say the word.
I can't
skeptical. Say it. Is it even a word? I don't even think that's a word right now. But anyways, you guys know what I'm trying to say, right, Jamsters? So a little bit about him just coming into this game, trying to make a name for himself. I know he's not making a whole lot of money, but he has a lot of energy still. If facilitating the ball with the 6 assists is really nice, but just the way that he can get to the rim, dish it out, even try to throw up a little floater here and there. He's a guy kind of Cameron Payne-ish in a way, and you get him for less money, and he's your third point guard. So you're winning anyway with this guy right now. And I'm actually really shocked.
No, actually, we're not, Matthew. He played and we lost.
No, I know.
We're not winning at all with him in there.
No, I know, but you know what I mean, dude. Like, because
I know
he put
what
up
you
good
mean.
minutes, and it's not his fault that we even lost the game. It's really everybody else. You can't blame Cameron Johnson though at all. I don't think you can blame him at all because he looked beautiful tonight. But Elfrid Payton is a guy where you want to see what he can do, and what I really like is how Monty did use him a lot because of the back-to-back. And last season, maybe there was some stuff with substitutions where you want to see more of some guy and let some guy rest, and maybe this is something that Monty does all season long.
Well, Cameron Payne was hurt at the end of last game. He's limping around. I think he had an ankle issue. That's the reason he didn't play tonight. That's why Elfrid Payton got the start. And, that's the advantage of this Suns team is they have the capacity to be deep.
Yeah.
So if somebody is a little nicked up on the second night of a back-to-back, you can play somebody and have quality minutes. Exactly. I think the frustrating part about this game is just the fact that we just we lost so bad, because there was a lot of positives here. I agree with Coach JJM that every game counts, and you have to pick these games up. But at the same time, like in the greater span of 82 games, I'm not overly worried about this loss because I saw some good things. The shots were there, they just weren't falling. They were wide open shots in the mid range. Mikal was missing them. JaVale McGee was missing. Booker was missing. Ayton was. I mean, everybody across the board was missing those shots, but they were getting to their spots and they were, close to going in. I just. You mentioned your boy, and it's that time.
Lights, Cameron, action.
He continues to look good.
Yeah.
In this game as well. Only played the 15 minutes, had 5 points, 2 for 4 from the field, 1 for 3 from downtown. He had 1 assist, but it was a damn good assist. Like, I'm really starting to see him and JaVale McGee develop quality chemistry. JaVale McGee as well. I mean, he was the Suns' offense early on. He had 10 of the Suns' first 32 points, and if he didn't get in that third foul, like, he would have continued to play better. But Cameron Johnson, although I don't know if he's making the leap that I necessarily expected him to, like I think Mikal is really starting to do, I still am. There's a lot of positive things happening there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's his second year, so I mean, coming into this year, I just think that the way Mikal kind of took off from his first to second year, it took a little while, right, to progress. It's Cameron Johnson's third year.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
He wasn't a rookie last year.
Should we just stop the pod? Like, what? Like, I'm not even kidding, man.
We're all disheveled.
Like we're all everywhere.
We're all disheveled.
So yeah, give him a little. So going in third, I'm just saying, like, third year he'll be fine. But that dish, I wanted to say, when he did that, those are little things where it's just like, what? Like, give me more of that. When you're not helping any other way, and he's only playing 15 minutes, which kind of sucks. But maybe he was just too tired or something. But I just think that when he's having those kind of games where he's facilitating the ball with JaVale McGee, something that they probably work on all the time, and it's working out on the floor. That's awesome. I'd love to see that, and especially in a game like this where it's a blowout, you want to see little things like that.
No, I do too. You look for those little positives. On the negative side, Los Suns says Shamet's not looking good, and I actually wrote this in my notes as well. Where did I put this here? I'm like, does Shamet seem passive to you? Like in the preseason when he was getting the starts with the ones, he was very aggressive and he played like he belonged. But right now, he just doesn't look good. He's not pulling the trigger. He's passive. He'll get the ball wide open and he won't shoot it right away. I mean, he played 17 minutes tonight, but he was 2 for 4 from the field, 1 for 3 from deep, total of 5 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. He's not pulling the trigger like we expect him to. I mean, the reason I'm so high on Landry Shamet entering this year is because this is an ideal role for him. This is the exact role he can fulfill. It's like, listen, you just get to go in there and be a flamethrower. When the ball's thrown your way, just jack it up, man. I don't care if you shoot 10 times in a game. You get the ball, you're open, you shoot. And now he's getting the ball. He's coming off of curls like he should. He's passing. I think he's trying to integrate himself a little too much into the offense. Maybe he's a little jealous. He sees Cam Johnson and JaVale McGee like passing the ball to each other and getting dunks, and he's like, "I want to be part of this. I want to help my guys out." It's like, no, man, just pull the trigger, take the shots. I mean, have you noticed the same thing, or am I just crazy?
No, just a little bit tonight, and you want to see it when Booker is struggling the rest of the game, kind of even after a hot first quarter start. You want to see him shoot more, and that's kind of why we brought him in, right? That's why you're excited, right, for him to come in to shoot more, be more aggressive that way. So what we saw in preseason was something where we're really hyped for. And it's kind of looking the other way. I don't know if it's because everything's just being taken so seriously now because it is a regular season and these minutes matter more, to where maybe he wants to be a guy that can facilitate and show that he can do more. Maybe that's the frustration Kyrie Irving had with him in Brooklyn. Maybe that's something that used to happen. Who knows? So there's a frustration side we will get with Shamet. We were very excited about him in preseason. He got his money. Everything was looking great for him. He might have an off game here or there, but for him to be a shooter, that's really what we need. We need that guy behind Devin Booker to come in and just lights out, shoot the ball.
And that's why I didn't play the Sham wow segment tonight, because it was a very unwow performance, man. I'm super high on this guy. Obviously, it's game 3 of the season, 3 games in 4 nights. We're gonna have a bunch of time off before we have a 5-game homestand that starts against the Sacramento Kings. And there's plenty of time for him as well as the other members of the Phoenix Suns to get right. But I was just really looking forward to him. I thought tonight was going to be a night where we had like a Landry Shamet 20-point performance with Cameron Payne out, That means you pretty much go to kind of that 3-guard philosophy where it's like, okay, Elfrid Payton's going to get some of those minutes, but it's pretty much going to be Devin Booker with Landry Shamet or Chris Paul with Landry Shamet. I thought that he would have an opportunity to really, tickle the twine, set the world on. He's on fire. And he just, again, the first thing I noticed in the first half was, especially as the Suns were starting to lose, as the deficit became greater and greater, I'm like, this is the time where Shamet should just be pouring it in. And he wasn't pulling the trigger. So it's just one of those things, again, the advantage of doing this podcast and hanging out with the Jamsters and talking to you guys after every game is we notice these little things and we point out these little things. And, again, you can compartmentalize what you view one night and go, okay, this was just a shit performance, or this was an amazing performance. But we notice little things. And it's like, hey, just of note, Landry Shamet seems passive. Is this a trend we're going to notice moving forward? Or was this just a one-game thing? Is this a trend, or is this just a blip on the radar? My hope is obviously that's a blip on the radar. I want Landry Shamet to earn his Sham Wow segment as much as possible. But when you have performances like tonight, again, you get 5 points from Landry Shamet, you lose by 29 points. Like, if he gives you 10, it's a different story.
Yeah, maybe he can meet somewhere in the middle, and honestly, to make you happy, it sounds like just shoot the ball.
Yes,
that's all you want to be. And that's fine, because when you come off the bench, there's certain roles you just want to fill. And with Shamet, that's what we expected, is to be a shooter. So you don't want to do any too much stuff and too little stuff. You want to stick with what you're really good at, right? And that's a James Jones guy. That's a Monty Williams guy. Come in, you're really good at one thing, and one thing is shooting. So for him to come in, hopefully the next few games, he can prove that he's just a guy that can focus on that one thing.
No, completely. I mean, that's his specialty. That's, like you said, that's what makes him a James Jones guy. Does one thing elite, and he's not doing elite necessarily to start the season. And as I mentioned, nor are the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are not a good 3-point shooting team to start this season, and we have the necessary assets to be a good 3-point shooting team. They're just not falling right now. Again, when you shoot and you only make 9, and the opposition makes 21 against you, you're not, unless you're living at the line, which the Suns didn't necessarily do tonight, you're not going to win that game. The Suns shot 10 for 15 from the free throw line, as the Blazers shot 11 for 17. And, here's also kind of another observation. And again, I know it's early, so the sample size is definitely small to start the season, but we're 3 games into the season now. The Phoenix Suns, as I just mentioned, only shot 66% from the line. In the first 2 games, they shot 73%. That's 19th in the league. So that number will go down with tonight's performance. So we are getting to the line. It's one of the observations I noted. I think it was last game where, it's like this team is attacking. They're getting to the line. You look at their overall free throw attempts in the league. They have the 8th most free throw attempts, but they're shooting 19th in the league. Again, small sample size, but this isn't a trend I want to continue, because that's been what made the Suns of last season so deadly, is when we got to the line, because we were like last or second last to actually getting to the line. Now we're getting there more frequently, but we're not hitting those free throws.
You can't have both.
You can't. Yeah. Why can't we have both? Why can't we get to the line and just fucking kill it there? Again, 10 for 15 tonight. That's only 5 points. So it's not, we only lost by 24 instead of 29. Yeah. But again, it's just one of those little things. We're trying to learn who this team is. And although we have in our minds our expectations of what this team is, now that we're starting to put together some of these games, we're now 1-2. It's a fact. Okay. 3 games in 4 nights. It's a fact. We have a 5-game homestand upcoming. It's a fact. And you generally know who your team is by about 20 games into the season, which is about a quarter of the way through. So we definitely have a long way to go. But the first quarter of the quarter, it's not looking good.
Yeah, but coming off a last game with the Lakers, you can just see that we know who they are. Obviously, I feel like a little bit already. I know 20 games, that makes sense. But we know who we are: defensive, mid-range shooting, driving, dunking, like getting to the rim. That just everything. Basically, we're all over the place right now as a Suns team in the last Lakers game. But when seeing that, we know that's who we are. I just think getting to that next level, though, to show that we can do it day in, day night,
precisely.
Day in, day out. Yeah.
Well, and you think of like the Golden State Warriors after the year that they first won their championship, the pre-KD year, where they lost in the playoffs the year before. they came out the next season and it was game in, game out, day in, day out. They were who they were. But I will agree with Grim Ripa in the chat. There's one thing I think we can all agree on even after tonight. Fuck the Lakers. Am I right?
If it makes you feel better, yes, definitely.
Wow.
It makes me feel better. No, I was saying we all feel better saying that. So yeah.
Okay. You said, well, if. You said if it makes you feel better.
If it makes you feel better.
Trust
Yeah.
me, anything
It
can make me
does
feel
make you
better
feel
right
better.
now. I had Taco Bell for dinner, and then I had some of my birthday cake from last week,
That's
and
beautiful.
I just not feeling great, you know?
Yeah.
Feeling great.
And plus, we do miss the juice. Yeah,
we do miss
the juice.
we do miss the juice, definitely. So it's come to that point of the podcast, everybody's favorite drop.
Payton watch.
Deandre Ayton, the guy who wanted the max this year,
Here we go.
went out and earned it tonight. 8 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist,
Do it.
26 minutes played. Ouch. And I'll tell you this. This is what I put in my notes early on. I go, he's very active early on the offensive end. He was cutting a bunch. He was doing some give and go actions with Jay Crowder that I've never seen him do. And on the defensive side, he was active as well. He was blocking shots. There's some really good shot deterrence. His hands were active. He was knocking balls out of bounds. But I feel as the game progressed, when these games happen, when you get punched in the mouth, you get the Devin Bookers of the world who just start like, okay, I'm just going to start grinding now. I'm going to start taking my shots. I'm going to try to get us back in. And then you get other guys who just they're like a chair and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to fold. And that's what happened to DA tonight, man. He folded after they went down like 20 points. The motivation was gone. The frustration from the Suns fans came out on Twitter, and you're just like, oh, okay, like this isn't a great rebounding team he's going against. He's going against Yusuf Nurkic. It's like he's the best rebounder in the league. He's more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy, but Ayton just didn't have the motor or the fight in him to go grab any of those rebounds. If anybody bet on any statistics relative to Deandre Ayton, I think the thing we're learning early for Suns fans, bet the under.
Always, especially if he has a really good game, even though last game with the Lakers wasn't that great offensively, you just bet the under. And one thing you don't want to start doing with him is doing the, is he worth the max or not? We talked about it. I talked about it last pod. It sucks because that's going to be one thing that is always brought up now. The whole respect thing, and you're going out there and you're not really committed, especially when the energy's gone. You're pulling LeBron, not really putting in the effort. There's a lot of talk to him too on the court with Mikal Bridges and him, a lot of Mikal in his ear and stuff. And I don't know if it's bad stuff, but it's just like, hey, this is where you need to be in certain situations, this and that. And I don't know if I'm reading in too much into that, but it just seems like the way he speaks to DA is kind of like, hey, like, it's crazy how Mikal came later in the draft from him, right? Or after him. And he's the guy telling him what to do on the court still and all that crap. Like, he's a true leader right now in his 4th year in the NBA, along with DA in his 4th year. But it should be back and forth. I mean, it must be a pain for them if they're having to tell him to do everything on the court consistently. That just would be a pain in the ass. So I hope that's not the thing. And I hope we don't get too much into the max and all that, his contract, but this is the way it's going to be this season.
It is because of the statements that he made about being respected and things of that nature. You look at the people that he wants to be respected, like the other guys in his draft class who got their money and they're performing consistently. Luka Doncic nearly had another triple-double tonight. Trae Young didn't have the greatest night, but still put his team in a position to win. And Deandre Ayton, and this is why I talked about it, when all that stuff was going on, it's like it might be a smart business move by James Jones to say, hey, let's take a look this year and see what you're really worth. And then based on your performance this year, you can test the market and see what you're really worth. And that's not me telling you, that's the market telling you, instead of us just being like, hey man, here's all the money. And of course, when you have performances like this, you're going to get those kind of conversations. Now, I'm not a dumb basketball fan. I understand that Portland was shooting the lights out tonight. And when a team shoots the lights out tonight, guess what happens? There's less rebounds. Like, I understand that. But at the same time, watching the game, he came in with a very high motor, which I was very excited for. Like I said earlier, not a lot of his shots were falling either. He wasn't taking a bunch, but I think he ended like 3 for 6 from the field. Look it up. Yeah, 3 for 6. 3 for 6 from the field. But again, as the team started to get punched in the mouth, and you're like, oh man, this might be an ass kicking unless our team can put it together. Deandre Ayton folded right along with it. And it was just, again, it's frustrating to watch. We'll be seeing if it's a trend moving forward. Chris
It better
Paul
not be.
tonight. Chris Paul,
Yeah.
4 points, 2 for 5 from the field. He had 3 text messages and 11 assists. So this is one of those nights that you saw on the back of a back-to-back. Chris Paul was in distribution mode. He wasn't out there trying to carry this team, and he shouldn't have to. In all honesty, you look at how this team performed last night, and we even saw it in the first game where we lost to Denver. This team can score in so many different ways, and so many different people can provide the offense that all we need him to do is be the distributor, and he did what he could. He got those 11 assists. But, again, the team needs to help him out because you had Elfrid Payton and JaVale McGee come off the bench and score in double figures, and only Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges on the first team unit had double figures. So, Chris Paul, I'm not going to bag on him and his performance. You look at the plus minus, he had the worst plus minus of all of the players, negative 29 or something to that effect. But
yeah,
did you see anything from Chris Paul? Were you frustrated with his performance, or
I'm actually not. No, because the thing
Yeah,
is with
good.
him, especially on a back-to-back night, and I noticed this last year in the playoffs too. I think I was always a little too hard on him for some reason, even though he's a point guard. Like, I feel like I looked at his game in a different way. And you're right when you say like where he's trying to distribute with everybody else on the court, and nights like this, like they have to make up for his absence offensively.
Mhm.
So offensively, he can distribute, he can get you good looks. That's what he's going to do. So it's up to the rest of the team to help him out. And he's going to play the minutes. It was a blowout. So of course he didn't play like 35 minutes, but
Yeah.
he would have if people would have helped him out. So I'm not disappointed in him. There's really no one to be disappointed into tonight as much. Maybe Ayton, just because we're so down about his performance later in the game, the rest of the game after he started off pretty good. But the Chris Paul,
I got one guy I'm disappointed in, but we'll get to him in a second.
Oh, okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into Chris Paul. This is just a game where I'm going to wait till Wednesday night when they play again against the Sacramento Kings and see how they play.
Exactly. See how they play there. Mikal Bridges, again, fantastic night. 4 for 5 from deep, 5 for 9 shooting, 14 points. Thank you, Mikal. Thank you very much. Made some money off you tonight.
He had the yellow shoes on too. Was that the first time this season?
Wearing the yellow shoes? Yes. But yeah, I bet the over on 12.5 points for him. He got 14. I was like, boom shot.
Oh, there it is. There's your shameless plug.
There you go. Easy money. Easy money. But the guy who did kind of frustrate me tonight, and I haven't talked about him too much in the first couple games, but I am just kind of frustrated with his performance. And typically I'm a big fan, but that's Pyramid Poppy. Abdul Nader, 2 for 7 from the field, 0 for 3 from downtown. I've always been a fan of his hustle and his ability to go and force the issue at the rim. And I think the reason that I was a big fan of his affinity to do so was because no one else on the team would. But on a night where you have the likes of Elfrid Payton, who is doing that, that's the role. He's the guy who's going to go ahead and take that ball to the rim. I don't need another guy necessarily to do that. And I think that, in the first half, he was kind of learning that. The paint was almost getting clogged because Elfrid Payton would drive in, create a mismatch, dish it out to Abdul Nader, and then he would drive in too. And then it was it forced a bad, ugly shot. And we know that Dooley, that's what he does. He puts up some bad shots. And then as the game progressed, he's like, oh, well, I should probably hang out here and just chuck up threes. And then therefore he went 0 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the one guy when I look up and down the roster that I'm just not impressed with. He is the one asset that the Phoenix Suns have to where if they move that asset, I don't know if necessarily I'd be frustrated in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, like Chandler Hutchinson, Ish Wainwright, obviously the guys at the back end of the bench, yeah, those guys too. But a guy who's actually getting minutes, the guy who backs up Mikal Bridges, I almost wish that Cameron Johnson would be the backup 3. I really do. I wish we could dish Abdul Nader in an asset.
Johnson?
Yeah, I think he would be a great backup.
Take him
3.
away from my 4 spot?
Yeah, that's your thing, not mine.
know.
You want him to be the starting 4. I think he'd be a great backup 3.
Okay.
But because we don't have a backup 4, he plays there. Nader plays in the backup 3 position. And I feel like this is kind of one of the holes. And yeah, as Grimripa says, Torrey Craig, that's why he misses the juice. Torrey Craig would be a great backup 4. Put Cameron Johnson, he'd be even more dominant in a backup 3 position because he'd be overly physical for any backup 3 that he's playing against. He could shoot all day. But instead we have Dooley, and I haven't been overly impressed. And again, it's 3 games and I know it, but have we ever been overly impressed with Abdul?
No,
Nader?
never.
Outside of his hustle?
the game he plays, it can be a mess. It can be really disruptive to what we're trying to do on the court. The fitting is just so weird because he's a guy that they want to play. Monty loves him. He's going to get a lot of minutes. It's just the weirdest thing because I feel like Monty just sees something and it's not working out. And yes, Juice over him any day. Juice is a guy that we would love to have to play the backup 3.
Hell yes.
But Nader
backup
is just,
4.
Oh yeah, but backup
I want
3,
him for the backup 4.
Okay.
No,
well,
you put Cam Johnson at the 4 or at the 3.
At the 3. So we're
Torrey Craig at the 4.
switcheroo on that, huh?
Yeah, we're switcheroo on that.
Okay.
But we both agree that Juice is better than Dooley.
Yeah, and it's probably never going to work out. It's just like, how long can you believe in this to where he comes into the game and there's some promise there once in a while, but it's never, ever, ever consistent. I don't even know if he really put together one good game for the Suns where he would be like a jam star in honor of his lifetime. I don't know.
He had one game.
Did he get
last
a jam
year.
star?
I think so. Last year. Remember, I wrote that piece for Bright Side of the Sun about how I wish that the rest of the Suns would play with the same tenacity that he did. And then he went out and he scored like 17 points or something off the bench. And we're like, oh, hey. And I remember Dave was like, oh, wow, you timed that one up, right? And then he didn't do shit the rest of the year. And then the moment he was healthy in the NBA Finals, he was getting minutes again. Again, he's like, Monty always has that one guy who's like, no matter what, I'm playing this guy. It's the Elia Kobo effect. And that's what he has with Abdul Nader. And like, I get it from a contract standpoint, like why he's on the roster. It's $2 million a year for the next 2 years. So he's unbelievably affordable, but that doesn't mean we can afford him minutes. He's just not. So looking at his statistics, I'm making myself.
We're so good tonight.
Yeah, we're on point for the nation. We appreciate you, Jamsters. Thanks for hanging out. With
thank you. Putting up with us jackasses over here. But Abdul Nader thus far in the season, per game, 2 points per game. He's shooting 25% from the field. I mean, he's not playing well, and those numbers are going to digress as he puts together a 2 for 7 performance. It's just that's one player that's unnecessary, and obviously it would take something to bring in something. I don't know. I don't know the answer right now. But the rest of when the rest of the team's doing great, we just kind of avoid this Nader situation until we just lose games like this. We're like, what? Oh, there's Nader. There he is. We point our finger at him a lot whenever we're losing, but whenever the Suns are doing good. But he never helps either way. Either way, he's never going to help in a loss. He's never going to help in a win. So.
I agreed with Ted Lubin in the chat. Give Sticks Nader's minutes. I agree with that 110%.
I actually wrote that down like Sticks.
Everything that I want. Because if you're going to sit there and waste minutes on a guy, waste minutes on Sticks.
Please.
Let him get in the game. Okay, let him try to develop a little bit. Move Cameron Johnson to the 3. Everybody wins. We'll see. I know. You're over the shaking your head. You want him to be the 4. All right, move Jay Crowder as the backup 3 to make Matthew happy or whatever.
Yeah,
I just think we're undersized at power forward backup because it's Cameron Johnson. Cameron Johnson's 6'9", and then our starting guy's 6'9". So it's like typically your power forward is like a 6'10" guy, 6'11" sometimes. But I like that. I'm gonna start pushing for that. It's like, listen, delete Nader, input Sticks there, change those minutes. I don't care if it is, how many minutes is he averaging a game? 11 minutes a game? That's the perfect amount to give to Sticks right now. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and I actually wrote down in the first quarter, Sticks. Could we see some Sticks tonight? I mean, if we're gonna get the back-to-back, a little bit of rest or whatever for some of these players, I want to see some Sticks minutes. I want to see if he's for real. In a game like this where it's probably not going to go the right way, just let's see what we can do with them. Not in the garbage time, but put him in some real situations and see what he can do on the floor.
Exactly. I mean, it can't be worse than Abdul Nader. I'll tell you that. Right now.
You can bet on it, bet on it, bet on it, bet on it.
All right, we bet $1 a game on a 2-leg parlay. You, the Jamsters, tell us what to bet on Twitter, and then we discuss it on the post-game pod. So year-to-date winnings, we are now down $3. We're 0 for 3 in the first 3 games. Today, we just did the spread plus total points. The spread for Phoenix was plus 2.5. The total points was over 231.5. We definitely hit the over on the points, but the Suns did not cover the spread, and that with 52.1%, that is what the Jamsters predicted we do. They said take Phoenix plus 2.5, Actually, they were completely wrong. They said the under. Take the under 231. So 52% got it exactly wrong. It should have been Portland and the over. That was the lowest amount taken. Only 2.8% of our 71 votes on Twitter did that. So we are now $3. We've yet to win one of these bet on it polls. But you know what? We got $82 that we started with coming from the Jamsters money that you donate in the chat. That super our elite Jamsters provide by being members, by signing up in the description in our YouTube channel. So we've taken that $82 and we're just going to bet $1 a game. We're going to put it out there. So we really appreciate it. But hey, let's get one right, man, because this is we got it the exact opposite of what happened.
Us.
Exact opposite. We need that. Matthew
is my bad juju, man.
We need to get Matthew that Cam Johnson jersey. So there you go. Bet on it. We bet on it, and we lost once again.
Jam Star of the Game.
It's Jam Star of the Game time, and the time where if you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you're here watching on YouTube, all of you, we truly appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead and let us know in the chat who your Jam Star of the Game is. Matthew, I think you went first last game, right?
Yes.
Good. You're going first again.
All right. Well, I'm going to do a little shared star, and it's going to be JaVale McGee and Elfrid Payton. Honestly, they
love it.
I love seeing Elfrid Payton out there with the hustle and energy. When JaVale McGee is out playing Ayton, you're even going to get that. You're going to get the talks of like, oh, maybe we just need McGee to be in the starting lineup and we'd be fine, right? Like things like that. I'm just saying stuff like that's going to happen. So those two, McGee was limited minutes, so it's 12 minutes, but he really put forth a lot of effort. And I like Payton out there really getting the minutes and just getting underneath his belt and just trying to go out there and make something happen with the offense. You can tell he was really trying tonight. So those are my two Jam Stars.
I absolutely love it. And I love Sonia Lovato in the chat. She says she's a new elite Jamster. She loves the podcast. Hashtag welcome. Valley Proud. Drop $10 in the super chat. Sonia, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Let us know who your Jam Star is in the chat. You took mine. Mine was going to be JaVale McGee. Definitely think that, you look, he scored his first 10 points in the first quarter before getting those 3 fouls, ended with only 12 points, but it's the energy that he brings. It's like you wish you could take his hustle and the fun he has playing the game, put that into like a little energy drink, and then hand it over to Deandre Ayton and be like, hey, man, take a chug of this before the game starts. Or in the third quarter when he starts to just be like, because that's what makes JaVale so much fun to watch. I will say this. Him shooting free throws is really, really interesting. He's got a funny-looking free throw shot. And then he took an 18-footer for his 10th point, and he nailed it after missing 2 free throws. And I was like, whoa, JaVale, like, I'm going to be making
over the place.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to be making fun of that free throw form all year long. But you know what? He'll get to the line because he's aggressive enough to do so. And I love seeing that. So he is definitely the Jam Star of the game. And that's what a lot of the Jamsters are saying. They're giving it to JaVale. They're giving all the bag money to Payton. So, it's sad when your bench players are easily the Jam Stars.
It's a loss, right?
Yeah, you definitely it's a loss right there. So, we'll go ahead and let's preview it. Let's preview the next game Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Sacramento Kings are coming to town. Matthew, we haven't talked about the Kings yet, have we?
No, not yet. Well, we did a little.
We did because isn't that funny? Like our 3 preseason or our 4 preseason games, the 3 teams that we played Sacramento, Lakers, Blazers. Those are our first 4 games of the season. 3 of the same opponents outside of Denver. It's all the same stuff. So, break them down.
Well, Sacramento, when they're 1-1, the Suns, the rebound that they need is a team like Sacramento. But the thing that's so tricky is if they're going into Sacramento and they can't pull it out, then that's when you have questions with the Suns team a little bit. After such a great win against the Lakers, you followed up with a stinker. And if you go play Sacramento and it's another stinker, then you have some major questions. And if it's the same kind of hustle and effort from Ayton, everything else going on with the rest of the players that falls into that game, it's going to be a little bit of trouble. All right. I know the 8-8 start last year was something to worry about kind of, but a 1-3 start with a team that should be ready to play and to beat a team like the Kings that you just need to wipe them out. That's what I'm looking for, man. It has to be a blowout. It has to be something, a statement, kind of just like, hey, we're back. We'll get into the flow and things. We're here. Don't worry about us.
You're exactly right. This is a get right game for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, they need to show everybody like, hey, we are who you thought we were. Okay.
Yeah.
We're a championship contender. We're a team that many people have talked about being atop the Western Conference at the end of the season. And you shouldn't stumble out of the gate, because if you do, you start those narratives. Oh, are they the Miami Heat of last year, a team that went to the NBA Finals the year before in the bubble and lost, and fatigue, and they're tired, and you got the Robert Sarver situation, which we know by Wednesday will be blown up. Our buddy Flex has said it on Twitter. He says that he knows there's a lot of things, like expect some shit to go downhill. It's all going to be coming out early next week. You're going to have that narrative. You have the DeAndre Ayton narrative. You have all of these different topics of conversation that are negative around the organization. And then if you come out and you go 1-3, again, I get it. It's 4 out of 82 games, but it's not the ideal start. It's not exactly what you want from your organization and from your team on the court with all this whirlwind going around. So you're exactly right. It's a get right game. The Sacramento Kings are a team, though, that, like I mentioned before, they have that offense. They're not a great defensive team like Portland, but they definitely have the offense. You got De'Aaron Fox. You got Harrison Barnes, who scored 36 against Portland. You got Rashawn Holmes, who's definitely going to out-hustle DA on the boards unless DA, puts his JaVale McGee hat on and plays up to his level. You got Davion Mitchell. You got Tyrese Halliburton. They got the good leadership with Tristan Thompson and Alex Lenz on the team. Hell, Marvin Bagley's still even there. So I mean, they definitely have a roster that can score points against you. You have to have the capacity to shut them down and play your brand of basketball and beat them in one of the many ways that the Phoenix Suns can. It could be beating them with the bench. It could be beating them with three-point shooting. It could be beating them with defense or pick and roll action or getting to the line. All these different ways that we can beat different teams. We just didn't see any of that tonight, and we better see it on Wednesday, or we're going to have to tell a lot of people, like, listen, I see the bridge over there. Don't go jump off of it just yet. It's only game 4.
Yeah, well, we'll have that talk till they get things right. It's an upsetting game. Sorry, I just keep thinking about Ayton and stuff, and I'm just like,
it's frustrating.
This is a long. Everything you just brought up, you listed. It's like it's gonna be a long mother effing season, dude.
It is, man, because there's all these extra stories around it,
stuff.
and as a couple of guys who sit and go live after every game, we're gonna be constantly talking about it. It's always gonna be topics on, even with the Sarver situation. Okay, obviously we addressed it on the podcast at the front end of the podcast last time. That was the first time we kind of talked about it here, and it was very fresh information. I'm already tired of people asking me about it. I'm getting text messages from friends, and they're like, hey, what is this I hear about Robert Sarver? I'm like, fuck, just read.
Yeah,
you'll find out on Monday.
Yeah, what do you know?
I say subscribe to the pod. Yeah, I'm like, well, I was hanging out at the local.
Follow Flex.
Yeah, follow Flex. You'll get everything you need to know there. Don't ask me, leave me alone. So, again, it's going to be an interesting few days in Phoenix Suns land. Obviously, when we come back and you see us on Wednesday evening, we'll be talking about hopefully a dub and a bunch of other whirlwind.
If not, full gray beards. We'll have some full gray beards on Wednesday.
I'm already starting to get some little grays.
Yeah,
I got 39.
Yeah, I got some little grays.
You got grays already?
Yeah, I actually just shave everything but the little gray hairs.
Smart.
Yeah, people like it.
Yeah, they're like, hey man, is that Gandalf walking down the street? Yeah. Like, look at that. He's flipping the beard and such. So for our lock it in against the Fanning the Flames, are we predicting a win or a loss for the Kings?
Loss for the Kings.
Or for the Suns against the Kings.
Yeah. No, it's a win for the Suns for sure.
All right, we're locking it in. It will be a win. If you're interested to hear what Fanning the Flames prediction is for the next week of games, you can get their podcast. I think they generally come out on Wednesdays. It's Tuesday or Wednesdays when their pod generally comes out. So you can hear the boys over at Fanning the Flames, what they have to say. Yeah. Currently, we're all tied at 1-2, just like the Phoenix Suns. We all predicted Suns would start out 3-0. We were all wrong. So they're 1-2. That's
we'll have to pick a loss here once in a while. You know what I mean? We can't get too happy, right?
Well, and me, I will definitely pick a loss when I think it's right. I honestly didn't think that tonight would be a loss. I really didn't think so. I thought that this team coming off that emotional win would take that up to Portland and whoop some ass. But again, the one X factor we have to remember time and time again is like no one's taking nights off against the Suns this year, man. It's like Notre Dame football. When Notre Dame comes into town, you better pucker up. Like everybody knows it's a chance to be on national television and to whoop some ass. Now, obviously tonight the Suns weren't on national television. But Portland knows that you go and you beat a Phoenix team and the way that you do, people will talk about you on Monday.
Yeah. The energy in that building, man. Nothing
Absolutely.
to beat that, honestly.
Yeah, the Moda Center, man, off the hook.
Yeah.
Off the hook. So anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here? I got one question for you. How about this one? Okay. So I am putting together and finalizing a piece for Bright Side of the Sun because it's video game week on Bright Side of the Sun. And thinking about video games, I was taken back to my childhood to one of the greatest video games ever made. And it kind of plays right into the name of our podcast. The Suns Jam Session podcast is inspired not only by John and Matthew, because that spells jam, but by NBA Jam. An NBA Jam Tournament Edition was one of the funnest video games ever made. And I had it on Sega Genesis. Just unbelievable. The graphics, the way that the gameplay, it was just out of this world. And it got me to thinking, and the basis of an article that I'll be publishing, I think it comes out Monday for Bright Side of the Sun, is who is the best duo all time in Phoenix Suns history for NBA Jam, and they have to be guys who played on the same team together. So you can't be like Nash and Barkley because they didn't play on the same team together. You know what I'm saying? So if you were to pick the two, now I made like a top 6 list in Phoenix Suns history. And I don't want to give it all away. Obviously, I want people to go to brightsideofthesun.com, listen or read that article. It's going to be really fun. Who do you think, though? Who do you think?
I have to go with the Robert Sarver and a bag of cocaine. That's my duo. That's my duo, dude.
Man, he's
same
up.
Team, right? No, I'm gonna go Nash and Amari because you got to get the dunks and the threes.
Nash and
so
Amari, okay.
Yeah, it's a for sure thing for me. Who do you got, man? I mean, you don't have to list out all of them, but
I don't want to give away my number one, but Nash and Amari is definitely on the top 6 list that I have. I will say that, don't count out the likes of like Larry Nance Sr. We saw Larry Nance Jr. tonight, but Larry Nance Sr. was a hell of a dunker in in his time, and having him on NBA Jam playing that video game would have been epic. And that's one of the challenges with NBA Jam. Like when you go back and the great thing about NBA 2K is NBA 2K, the original one, came out in December of 1999. And ever since then, they've had the same one over and over and over again. It's got the updated roster. So if you go back and you play like NBA, I think it was NBA 2K4 was one of my favorite games to play ever because it had Stephon Marbury and a rookie Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah.
And I used to play the shit out of that game before I went to the Army. And like with NBA Jam, it's like the first one came out in 93, Tournament Edition came out in like 94. They made a couple shitty versions like later, but chronologically there was just never more opportunities to update those rosters and to really kind of compare and contrast them. It was like, okay, that's the 93-94 season, and that was pretty much it. Carlos Johnson, please stop that shit in the chat. I hate fucking people who troll in the chat. Please. Okay. 2 trips to the line in the first half. What do you fucking do? We lost by 29. Get over it. Christ almighty. Jesus. I'm grumpy.
Like Dave King right now, man.
Well, so they chronologically, they stopped making that game. So that's what kind of makes this a fun opportunity to kind of go back and take a look at who those different teams are and, how they were there and then they weren't. And it would have been cool to see like, the 7 seconds or less Suns. It would have been cool to see them play together on that video game. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you mean. Yeah. Just what a hell of a podcast.
Yes. Thank you.
What a hell of a game and a podcast tonight.
Yeah. So
let's get things right tomorrow.
Let's get it right on Wednesday. So on that note, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Whether you're listening along live, or if you're listening along live, if you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you're watching along live, thanks for kicking it with us. Even after a tough game, if you're sitting here and you're watching this podcast, you the real MVP. You a real
really
Jamster. So Matthew, you got anything to say before we go ahead and get out of here?
Go home and tell your family to shut up and go to bed.
Amen. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on
Bye,
Wednesday after the Phoenix Suns play the Sacramento Kings.